Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you and welcome to our 2023 State of Research. And welcome to everybody online. At last check, there was about 40 people online, so welcome to you as well. We'll go ahead and get started again with our 2023 State of Research. And real quickly, our agenda, we'll have a land acknowledgement by myself, opening remarks by our Provost Holloway, and then VPR Ellen Fisher will jump right into the State of Research, and we'll wrap up with a short Q&A session. So founded in 1889, the University of New Mexico sits on the traditional homelands of the Pueblo of Sandia. The original peoples of New Mexico, Pueblo, Navajo, and Apache, since time immemorial, have deep connections to the land and have made significant contributions to the broader community statewide. We honor the land itself and those who remain stewards of this land throughout the generations, and also acknowledge our committed relationship to Indigenous peoples. We gratefully recognize our history. Without further ado, Provost Holloway.
Thanks, Greg. Can you go back to the very first slide?
Absolutely.
So good afternoon, everyone. I'm James Holloway. I'm Provost and EVP for Academic Affairs. It's good to have you all here. I love this picture because what it shows is that research at UNM is so big, it explodes beyond the borders of the state. Right? I mean, we're taking over Texas, we're taking over Arizona, Colorado's next. I think we stole Ellen from Colorado. We're clearly positioned and ready. So thank you all for being here, and I really appreciate your interest and engagement in the work that is research at UNM. Ellen brought us a phrase that we're all learning, and we all really like, that research is education. I think that's absolutely true. It is spot on. There is, in my mind, no separation between our missions of education, learning, and our missions of discovery and creation of new knowledge. And so I really appreciate that framing that Ellen gives us. I think that what we do in research is important for many reasons. I think the economic development that it leads to is important. I think the development of students that it leads to is important. I also want to acknowledge sometimes that it's just fun, right? I mean, for a lot of us, finding something new and seeing others build on that work is exciting to see, and I think very rewarding. One of the things I did in my career was, so I solve radiation transport problems. And radiation transport, you write it out mathematically, it's a 7-dimensional integral differential equation. It's of air. It's really big. And so we look for lots of approximations to make it more tractable. And there was an approximation around for quite some time based on maximum entropy principles. And everybody said it's unstable, it's worthless. But it wasn't unstable, it wasn't worthless. People just didn't know how to solve it numerically. And working with some of my PhD students, we figured out how to do that. For a while, we ran a small cottage industry of, here's new ways and new geometries and new things we can do with this. But what was really useful about that wasn't that we solved that particular approximation. It was that because people couldn't solve that approximation before, they hadn't gone to the next steps that it provided. It was part of a systematic series of approximations that could get you as accurate as you want. But because people couldn't solve the simplest one, they didn't pursue it. So when we figured out how to solve that simplest one, people started pursuing those better approximations because the same techniques allowed you to solve them. That was really rewarding for me and for my students, just to see others build on what we did. That to me was one of the joys that came out of research. So while I want to say that what we do in economic development is important, what we do in bettering the human condition through research is important, I want to acknowledge also that it's really fun and exciting to engage in as an intellectual activity. So on that note, I will turn it over to someone who makes everything fun, Ellen Fisher.
Thank you, Provost Holloway. I love the introduction, and yeah, maybe that'll be my next one. Research is fun. Research is education. Research is economic development. You know, we're all good. So I am going to talk today about sort of looking back over what happened in 2022, but also looking forward to what we're doing or planning on in 2023. And I just want to start out by saying that Basically, I come to work every day and it's never the same, and I absolutely love that. And I'm very proud of all the work that my team does, as well as all the researchers on campus. It's really awesome to be part of the research enterprise at UNM. So this is my team. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I just want to point out that we've put together a really absolutely fabulous PR team. We have everything from IT to communications. And I also want to point out Linda Burrell is one of our newest members. She's a technical training consultant. So we've been really working on upping our game with respect to education and training activities and things with Linda on board, which is really great. But we look so much better in person. I thought I'd just show you the picture. And also know that everybody is smiling in this photo. We're all very friendly. We are absolutely there to help all of you do whatever you need to do in the research arena. And it's really been awesome to work with them as well. The latest member, this is my big announcement, is that we have hired a new associate VP for research, Om Paramal, who will be joining us this summer, starting July 1, coming to us from South Dakota State University, and we're really excited about it. One of the things that I think Om is going to bring for us is that his home department as a faculty member will be in pharmacy. So he's going to provide us with a really nice direct connection with the health sciences campus. And we're really excited to see what that might bring in terms of enhancing our collaborations with our colleagues across Lomas. The other thing I want to point out as far as the presentation goes is any slide you see that has some turquoise on it, that is an indicator to you, and if I don't say it, that we are doing that in collaboration or in conjunction with the health sciences campus. And so just to let you know, I might not point it out all the time, but we've given you a visual cue with that. So as I move into the sort of main part, I'm going to tell a little story here. As we were starting to put together the presentation for this year, we were talking about how in 2022 that we had a little bit of a disruption. I don't know if people recognized it. We had the implementation of a new electronic research administration system. I'm sure some of you have heard about that. All right. Well, if you missed it, it was a little bit of a hitch in the giddy up. If you're from Texas, you know what I mean by that. And so we were talking about how we put this together and think about it. And I said, you know, the research community at UNM is like an ecosystem. And I started thinking about ecosystems, and then it immediately made me think about foxes and bunnies. And I used to live in a neighborhood where we had lots of bunnies, and the bunnies would do what bunnies do, and they proliferate and have baby bunnies. And then we'd start to see foxes in the neighborhood. And sure enough, pretty soon the bunnies would disappear. And then we'd only see foxes, and then the foxes would go away. Guess what? We got more bunnies. Okay. This is the way ecosystems work in my brain, is foxes and bunnies. And as I'm saying this, relating this to my team, they're all sitting there horrified, looking at me. And they're like, no, you can't talk about foxes killing baby bunnies. That can't happen, right? So they said, let us take care of it. So I gave it to the communications team, and they came up with a great graphic, which is here, which kind of captures that idea of an ecosystem, but it's even better because as a chemist, it reminds me of a stylized version of an atom with electron orbitals and things like that. And then I thought also Provost Holloway would really like it because it would remind him of nuclear things. And
UNM is the nucleus.
And UNM is the nucleus. Okay. So in any event, this sort of captures that idea that we have lots of different parts. And obviously when there's a disruption in one, it's going to affect the others. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But hopefully I think we're getting back into some kind of equilibrium in our ecosystem. And I'm really happy to see that happening. I also want to do a little bit of a shout out to the 3 units that report to us, Office of Research Integrity and Compliance, Office of Sponsored Projects, and the Faculty Research Development Office. And these 3 offices have just done amazing work this past year in getting the ERA system up and running. I also want to point out Linda had just took over in February for as director of the interim director of Office of Research Integrity and Compliance. I also would like to report that Rosa, who's done so much in OSP, especially in the face of real staffing challenges that are not unique to New Mexico, but given that we were also implementing the new ERA system, it's especially challenging. And I'm happy to report that we're almost back up to a full complement of OSP staff. And so hopefully any delays and things are going to quickly be decreasing. I also want to know the centers and institutes that report to OVPR. I don't know that all of you know that all of these groups report to us, and I'm not going to go through all of those, but I just want to do a couple of shout outs to a few. At the top, we've got Bieber, and usually we don't hear a whole lot of about Bieber. They just go about doing their work in the background. But this past year, you probably saw several articles about this controversy or debate as to whether or not the New Mexico legislators should get paid. And Bieber was at the forefront there. They did a massive study last year, which is really amazing to see them in the pages of the Albuquerque Journal in a good way. And then CASA also got a very large center grant this past year, and they have been getting that up and running over the past few months, which has been awesome. I also want to point out that EPSCoR that is housed here at UNM, but serves the entire state of New Mexico. Last year, they submitted their renewal and their track one proposal, which is a $20 million effort. And we're hoping to hear about it pretty soon. We haven't heard yet. I'm looking at Gunny, and but hopefully that's a keeping your fingers crossed thing. So we're excited about that prospect. And then last, I want to just point out that Shri last year issued printed their second issue of Chamisa, was just an amazing compilation of poetry and essays and art. And this particular issue really honored women in the Southwest. And so if you haven't seen that, I would encourage you to pick up a copy and take a look. And then, oh, Greg. There we go. The last group I want to shout out at the beginning here is the Research Council. This is the 22-member council that has representation from all of the schools and colleges. The 9 category 3 centers that I just showed you. We also have representation from URAD, the undergraduate research artistry and design network, and graduate studies and faculty senate. This is another group that has absolutely been instrumental in helping us to guide the direction of various programs and initiatives within my office. They're absolutely dedicated and committed to advancing the research profile of UNM. So I'm really grateful to their assistance as well. So the other big thing that we undertook in 2022 was to develop a strategic plan. It's a 5-year strategic plan. What I've listed up here are sort of the major goals that we have for this, and we consider these to be somewhat the pillars of our enterprise. And they go from advancing UNM stature as a world-renowned research university to providing transformative educational experiences for students through research, enhancing the customer-focused nature of the research administration here at UNM, establishing robust partnerships outside of the institution, and then lastly, but certainly not least, creating and employing effective communication strategies to really be able to get the word out about the great things that are happening here at UNM. So as we go through this major portion of my talk, this is what you're going to see, these sort of loosely shown here. And I also want to point out that we didn't do this in a vacuum, that we use the UNM 2040 framework as the basis for how we develop those goals. And you can see that we've sort of done this aligning thing where there's straight arrows that go all the way across. And again, this is where I was outvoted by my team because I really wanted there to be some kind of a network structure, because I think research fits into every one of the 2040 goals. And as a consequence, I feel like when we start to try to do this alignment, we're really not representing accurately how integrated research is into everything we do at the university, and also how our goals within OVPR are integrated with the 2040 framework. Okay, so I'm going to start out by really honoring and celebrating some of the great things that have happened over the past year, and talk a little bit about some of the research awards and recognition. And at the start, I just want to say that there's no way I could possibly present every single thing that happened that was awesome this past year. So we've just picked some highlights, and if yours isn't up here, tell me about it, and we'll make sure we'll get some recognition in here somewhere for you at some point. So I'll start out with our oldest awards that we give out in the research arena: the annual research lecture and the community engaged research lecture. The ARL has been around for, I think this is the 67th year that it's been in existence at UNM, which is just amazing history. This year's recipient is Dr. Boyo Duretic, and he's on the health sciences campus. His talk is going to be next week. He was unable to present in the fall, which is when we normally do it. So if you have an opportunity, I strongly encourage you to do that. And then the community engaged research lecture will be held next month, and David Shane is the recipient of this year's award there. So we wanted to build off of this great history of recognizing and celebrating outstanding accomplishments in the research arena. And in 2022, we introduced 3 new awards that sort of give us an opportunity to celebrate different types of accomplishments. And the first one we have is the Globally Engaged Research Award. And last year's inaugural awardee was Tobias Fisher, who studies volcanoes. And so I know that he was super happy at the end of last year when Mauna Loa started to erupt, and he went out, and I'm sure he was on the first plane to Kona. So anyway, he does really awesome work. And so he was our inaugural and very representative. Great thing about the Globally Engaged Award, last year we only gave out a faculty award. This year we expanded it to include undergraduate and graduate students. And so there are 3 awards that are going to be given out this year. The deadline for submission of applications is Friday. So please, if you know somebody, please put in an award. The Ovation Awards in the center. This was our way of doing what some people might call spot awards. So if somebody has something great that happens, maybe they published a really high profile paper, they had a great exhibition in an art museum or something like that. We were trying to figure out a way to just say, hey, that was a great job, you did that. So we're calling these the Ovation Awards 2022 inaugural awardees. There were 8 of them. They're up here. I will also point out that 2 of them have joint appointments with the Health Sciences campus. So we had these open to everybody at UNM. And then the third one was the Faculty Mentored Research Award, which I'm also really proud of because it really honors the relationship that forms between an undergraduate student and a faculty mentor when they do undergraduate research. And again, we have a great collaboration here between chemical and biological engineering professor Ashraf Nuruddin, and then a nominally health science campus student who is a biochemistry BA and MD student, Leanne Tang. And so they were our inaugural awardees last year. And so we're looking forward to, again, holding these this year. The Ovation Awards, Melissa Emery Thompson is back here. And if you have somebody that you'd like to nominate for an Ovation Award, just peg her during the reception, and she'd love to take a nominee from you. The name of a nominee, not the actual nominee. Okay. And I wanted to point out a couple of other things that came up this year. This one was actually quite recent. Professor Mubarak Hussain Syed in the Department of Biology received an Alfred P. Sloan Foundation. So this is a national award. And I just wanted to give a shout out because we also worked with Professor Syed. His lab also employs undergraduate students in research. They do biomedical research. And he's also created some really awesome videos his students have to recruit students to come to UNM and also to come and do undergraduate research at UNM. So I just want to point out that we're getting national recognition for some of our outstanding. This is an assistant professor. And then last summer at the Venice Biennale art exhibition, UNM was invited to do an exhibit there called A Library, a Classroom, and the World. This was, I didn't get a chance to go. The provost wouldn't let me go. I asked and, not really, I just couldn't make it. But in any event, this was an amazing exhibit that actually grew and changed over the seasons. And it won a top research award in 2022. So I just wanted to shout out a couple of really national and international recognition that some of our faculty have received in the past year. To build on that, those are awards and recognition. We've had some other types of research success that we wanted to do a little bit of a run through of a couple of those. We always like to start with our grand challenges. These are what we're calling the OG grand challenges, the original, the successful aging, substance use disorders, and sustainable water resources. Over the past year, we've really been working with these groups to think about what's next for them. And saying, one of my other terms that in addition to research is education, is that I'm really interested in how we level up. How do you get to the next level? And so you'll see later that at least one of these groups is moving, we think, into that next level, which is really awesome to see. I also want to point out that we really think of this at UNM as a huge success. The presidential grand challenges was an original investment of $2.1 million. It has generated over $50 million in new research funding, and it's still growing. So these groups are still working together, they're still growing. So this is what we consider to be a success. But I think more importantly, we really engaged a huge number of faculty, staff, and students in the grand challenges and gotten people engaged. It's really exciting to see that. And so last year, we decided we were going to do a bit of a reimagining of the Grand Challenges program and see if we couldn't expand that even more and have greater impact. And so we created a tiered structure to the program, and we named 10 level 1 concept teams. They're here. And I'm not going to go through these in detail, but I've been really interested to see how over the past 9 months or so, these teams, given a very small amount of money, have been coming together to convene and become even better and bigger teams, and really get focused on how do we set a vision as a team, how do we act as a team, and how do we then go after collaborative funding at another level. And I'm also really proud of the fact that all of the teams here are focused on what I would consider to be areas of need and interest to the people of New Mexico. There's a social justice component to many of them, which I think is really important and interesting. And they're also really interested in solving very hard problems. And so again, a little bit later on, I'm going to talk about what the next stage is, going to level 2. So we are going to go from level 1 to level 2. We got the OGs going to level 3. So this is one of our big research successes at UNM. Another thing we introduced last year was Research and Discovery Week. This was a great event. It was held in November of last year, and we're in the early stages of planning for this event this year. So again, if you have an event or something that you'd like to get highlighted as part of Research and Discovery Week, we are really happy to hear from you about that. I just want to say for a minute, by the numbers, we had over 30 research events that were designated as part of Research and Discovery Week during that 7-day period. We had 3 that included 3 keynote lectures from external speakers that we helped support from the OVPR. And we had attendees that ran the gamut from alumni to community members to people from the New Mexico state government to loved the school age kids that came, and every day we had hands-on activities in the sub, and it was really awesome to just see them get super excited about some of the things that were going on, and we really appreciated everybody's efforts who came and put on those events for the kids. The other picture that I have on here that I wanted to just point out is that during that week we also held the traditional graduate poster session and Logo Bites contest, which was a great success. And it was back in person for the first time since the pandemic. So that was really great to see that as well. And another big success this year was UNM First. This is an NIH grant, $15.5 million NIH grant to support the hiring of diverse faculty. This is an amazing team that put together a proposal. We're right now in the process of hiring 9 faculty in 6 different STEM departments to come here and really serve as a core group of faculty interested in fundamental biomedical research. We're super excited to see what the outcomes of that is going to be. And really the goal is to continue to enhance inclusive excellence at UNM. And I know that they're going to contribute a lot to the research environment. And then a little bit of a twist, but I just want to say that one of the things that we've done for the last couple of years is work really hard with our federal relations group to think about what our federal priorities are. This is just some of the highlights of the different projects that were put forward this year. They're in the process of being put forward for funding in FY24. And they again run the gamut from some great projects from our School of Engineering, including advancing the Directed Energy Center that got formulated about a year and a half ago. Also things like language science skills for Indigenous students, which is also of real interest to the populations of New Mexico. And the other thing that I want to make a note of here on these federal priorities is that we've built really strong relationships with our congressional delegation in DC. And this year in particular, we got a lot of requests from our senators and our representative saying we really want to see proposals from UNM in these particular areas. And so they were asking us to put in some more requests kind of at the last minute, and we kind of scrambled a bit, but we were able to do that as well. Okay. Another area where I think we have seen success in introducing the program, the We Are One Faculty Success Program. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these. I've talked about them a lot in the past, but we have spent now over $2 million that have been invested in this program in a variety of different ways. The 2 I want to focus on are the 2 at the bottom, the fostering research, excellent research expansion in the social sciences and humanities. That is a joint venture between the College of Arts and Sciences and the College of Education and Health Sciences, where we're supporting faculty who maybe haven't had a lot of experience in going after extramural funding. And so we're providing them with support and access to people that can help them find opportunities that match with what their research programs are, and really giving them the support they need to go after maybe their first grant ever. And we piloted this last year with 20 faculty. Out of that 20 faculty, we've already had 8 proposal submissions, which I think is a real success at this point. And these data may be a little out of date because these numbers were generated about mid-February. So we may have had some more submissions since then. The really great news is that we've already received one of those grants was funded from the National Institutes of Humanities and National Institute of Humanities. And then we also have one NSF award where the PI has heard from the program officer. It looks like it's going to get funded. So it's a huge success for not a huge investment in my mind. And so we took some feedback on how we ran the program. We've done some revamping and you should, I think I just saw that earlier this week, the new call for people who are interested in participating in next year's cohort. It'll start in the fall and run through the year. I would really encourage people to get engaged with this if they're interested at all in doing this. And then the last one, the Leadership Innovation for Faculty Transformation, or LIFT. This is a very small pilot program that we've been doing for the last semester and a half. We have 3 faculty that sort of came to us and said, we're really interested in thinking about how we might be able to level up and do something a little bit different, something that goes beyond our own research agendas. And so we said, okay, let's try something out. And they are helping us to actually shape what that program is going to look like. We're hoping to have an RFP out probably over the summer, early fall, for another cohort to do that. And I just want to give a shout out because Jose Cerrato is here. And we just, sort of as part of this program, we sent him to Washington, D.C. for a White House event a couple weeks ago. He had a great time from what I could see from his Twitter feed. But more importantly, that was an event where people were coming together to talk about climate change and education and underserved populations. And we thought partly because of his interest in doing that leveling up, that this would be a great opportunity for Jose to get some experience in a little bit different way and bring that back to UNM for us. So am I right, Jose? So, okay, see, okay. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on this, but our FRDO has really worked this spring to develop some new workshops, again, to help faculty identify priorities, be able to write better proposals, those kinds of things. They're doing a lot of these in conjunction with the UNM Advanced program. And I can't say enough about our partnership there with the UNM Advanced folks, but we're really working on the development side, sort of the pre-award side of the research enterprise in terms of the proposal submissions, to give people a lot of support in that identification of opportunities and the preparation of proposals to get people to where they can have more competitive proposals and ultimately bring in funding for what they want to do to have fun, as the provost pointed out. So, okay. Postdocs, I just want to say we're continuing to support postdocs. We had our second celebration of the National Postdoc Appreciation Week last September. And right now we're in the process of working on thinking about how we could actually hire somebody, at least on a part-time basis, who would be a director of postdoc affairs and really have postdocs as their #1 focus. And we're doing that in conjunction with the Provost Office, the Office for Academic Personnel, and with the Health Sciences Campus as well. So super excited about that. And then last but not least, the Zencata Graduate Fellows Program was also introduced in 2022. We were busy last year, folks. We had 11 graduate students who were absolutely amazing students from across the institution who participated. It has been absolutely amazing to see them bond with each other and have some mentorship experiences, have some training experiences. And they also have been helping us to shape what we're doing with that program and what we're going to be doing moving forward. We just, again, I saw the call for applications for that program just came out recently. So if you know any grad students who want to be engaged, it's a really, really great opportunity to the one thing we saw that was really amazing was how all these students from all different disciplines were able to come together and they talk to each other and they really have formed friendships. And I believe that there's some research collaborations that are also have been sparked by those relationships. So it's really a great program. Okay. I'm going to move from all that fun stuff to the stuff that people kind of go, oh, really, this is boring, but it's not. Research administration is so much fun. It's one of the funnest parts of my job. And as I mentioned earlier, we had the streamlined implementation, the new ERA system. Rather than talk about some of the hiccups and glitches that we went through over the past year and a half, however long it's been that we've been working on this, I did want to point out some of the positives of what has happened so far. And first of all, the streamlined proposal preparation module went live on October 17th. That was an interesting day. We then did the permanent transition on November 22nd. Since then, since we've had it live, we've submitted, and this is again as of March 1st, 240 proposals have been successfully submitted. I'm sure that number is higher now than it was. And also more than 80 pre-proposal or unfunded agreements have been processed through that portal. On the other hand, there are two other modules that went, and one of the reasons we wanted to go to a new ERA system was to have a one-stop shopping, so to speak, with respect to compliance as well as the proposal submission piece. And so the IRB module went live way before the proposal submission did in May. They were sort of the canary in the coal mine, and I gotta shout out the IRB team. We're absolutely amazing, and they have already processed 363 IRB submissions, IRB protocol submissions since last year, which is awesome. And then on November 7th, the conflict of interest module, and they are hitting close to 2,000 COI protocols that have been submitted since then. So we really have been continuing to make the donuts as much as we possibly can. And so we appreciate everybody's patience with what we're doing. I also will point out on the proposal submissions, we have not missed a deadline on any of the proposals. So it's another thing to really be proud of for our OSP team, our FRDO team, our COI team, and our IRB team have just been absolutely working their little fannies off. So also, like I said earlier, it's given us the opportunity to create some new training materials. This is just one example for the IRB. These are videos that have been produced that are specific to streamline lots of educational materials. We are continuing to develop these. They're going up on the website on a constant basis. And so if you have any questions, that's maybe your first place to stop in. And then again, we're all happy to answer questions if you have them about that. So big thank you to our research administrators. I also would be remiss if I did not mention that the UNM Information Technologies, our IT group, absolutely fabulous to work with on this project. They're continuing to work with us and support us in doing this, as is the financial systems management. And I also want to say there are a number of members of my team in my office that have spent countless hours. And when I say it's been thousands and thousands and thousands of hours, that is not an exaggeration. So it's been a huge effort. And we are out of the weeds, I think, at this point. We've turned a corner and we're running semi-smooth. Okay. Along those lines, I wanted to point out that in the category of enterprise technology that supports research, about a year and a half ago, we signed up for a site license for Qualtrics. I think most of you are aware of that. It's a survey software. It is available to all students, staff, and faculty across all of the campuses. The big new thing right now is that when we first set this up, the IT group said, okay, we want everybody to have to sign up to be able to access Qualtrics. They just recently changed it over to where now you can just automatically access Qualtrics using your NetID. So it's a lot simpler to be able to do that. And then one of the other things that came out of this, which was kind of awesome, was that HSC has a site license for RedCap. And because we made Qualtrics available to everybody, they said, well, we could make RedCap available to everybody too. And I said, that would be great. Why don't we do that? So they have done that. And so again, sometimes depending on what type of survey you're doing, what type of data you're collecting, you may want to use both of those. So I just wanted to just give a little bit of a nod to that. And then the last thing here, Savers, that's a brand new thing. This is, again, I'm rolling it out here. We're not really rolling it out yet. It's not quite ready for prime time, but this is the brainchild of Patrick Bridges, the director of Carsey. And he said, you know, we really want to try this. It was so successful with Qualtrics, and thinking about how we could maybe do that for other types of enterprise technology that supports the research community. And so we are going to be issuing a call, hopefully later this spring, to say, what are you interested in getting as a site license at UNM for enterprise software that we could then test out for maybe 2-3 years and see what the user group looks like. We're doing this in conjunction with IT and also with health sciences. At least they're part of the conversation at this point. Whether or not anybody's going to throw any money in is another story, but you know, people are always happy unless it costs money, right? So, but we're working on that to start trying to get some more of these kinds of things going, because the easier we make it for people to be able to access the technology that they need, the easier it is for you to do your research. And that's what we're trying to do with all of this. So, oh, and the libraries have also been part of this. I need to give a shout out to them too. Okay, so research communication. We've been doing a lot of it. Some of you are listening, I'm not sure, but I send out these monthly from the desk of, and I know that some of you read it because I get usually 1 or 2 emails that tell me how I missed something, or how I should have done something different, or if the format isn't right on my computer. So I'm like, yes, you read it. So keep sending those emails if you read it. I actually really like it because it's an opportunity for me to sort of capture some of the things that are going on. It's one more means of communication about our events, and to highlight some of the things that we're doing that you might not know about. So I really I enjoy doing this. So we'll see what happens as we go forward. But loving that. And then the other thing that we've done, I think there were some out there. We created a trifold at the end of last year. And we really did this for a purpose. It's a mailer. If you haven't seen them, I think we have some out on the table back there. And the idea was we wanted to really capture that motto of research is education for one primary purpose. And that is to make sure that each one of our state legislators had one at the beginning of the legislative session. And so we did go up on UNM Day in January, and we handed these out and delivered them to each of our state legislators, and really gave that message about the idea that we do a lot here at UNM, and research is one of those components, and it's an integral part of what we do to educate students and to support the state of New Mexico. We also did send these out to all of the VPRs at the R1 and R2 institutions across the entire country. We've also given some to the foundation, and we've given some to the Alumni Association. So we're hoping to be able to spread the news there. And then the other thing that we've been working on from a communication standpoint is we spent the better part of 2022 revamping, redesigning our website. Our IT group really worked on getting that, and it is largely done at this point. We still have found a few glitches here and there where we still need to update some pages. I can access some that have old data on them and things like that. So we're working on continuing to update as we go. So working on getting the word out both internally and externally. We want to communicate the research message from UNM. So externally, also partnerships, that's another one of our pillars. And in this, I wanted to just focus on a couple of partnerships that I think are really important and have changed a bit over this last year. The first, I just wanted to put up about NSF, that there's a real opportunity at NSF right now. They have been mandated to increase their funding to EBSCOR states, 15% in FY23, which we are currently in right now, up to 25% in 2025. And so Benny Balakrishnan, who's sitting right up here in front, told me recently he went out to NSF for an EBSCOR meeting, and they are dying to get proposals from EBSCOR states. So if you have a proposal that's been sitting on your desk for a little while, now might be the time to ship it off to NSF, because they got money to burn, and they've been mandated by Congress to spend more money in EBSCOR states. The other thing that NSF did was create the new directorate, the TIP Directorate, Technology Innovation Partnership Directorate. And Congress has poured an enormous amount of money into that directorate with the 3 overarching missions of regional economic impact, centers of culture of innovation, right? Sorry, and comprehensive workforce development. And I think that UNM is absolutely poised to really contribute and go after some of those monies, but really to be able to make a difference in our region. We already have created a culture of innovation. That's something that is part of the Lobo identity. We have the ability to really contribute to the comprehensive workforce development that NSF would like to see. And then the regional economic impact is again something I think that the provost said it really well, that our research is so big that we expand out into other states. And so as one example of how we did that, the TIP directorate at NSF had these, they called them regional innovation engines, the RIE, REI, not REI, that's the store. It's RIE, it's the other one. And they had two different types of proposals that they requested last year. One was type 1, which was just a small amount of money. It's like $100,000 for a year, whatever. Anyway, they were small. They were small. We participated in 6 of those, but we didn't lead one. And the reason we didn't lead one is that we went after the big one. And the big one is type 2, and it's $160 million over 10 years. For the regional, to basically create a regional economic engine in this region. And UNM led this effort. And in fact, Dave Hansen, who's sitting up here also, which is why he's correcting me on all my numbers. I really did want to just focus on the numbers on this slide. Rally West is what we called this effort. It was really focused on providing clean water and clean energy to every single person in our region. But here are some of the numbers. We had 15 partnering institutions. Those are the ones that are shown on the map, which is just freaking amazing. Even just within UNM, we had 12 different units that were engaged within UNM. And we had 88 senior personnel. We had 27 additional collaborating public and private organizations that went into this. This was an absolute beast of a proposal. And Dave led the effort and did a great job at gathering and herding all the cats. And I also have to say a huge thank you to Provost Holloway and President Stokes. They provided us with some additional funding to be able to buy some faculty out of teaching and to support the addition of some grant writers and people that could do the document catching, because I forget how many pages this was, but it was hundreds and hundreds of pages that went into NSF in January. I haven't heard yet about this. And if it might be a slim possibility that we get it, but I'm going to say that this is one of the best things I've seen happen at UNM since I've been here, because we built these partnerships, and already just since January, since this huge effort to get the proposal submitted, but just since January, we have continued to see progress on partnerships with all of the people that were engaged in this. I just saw one of the federal priorities that we were requested, that one of the senators requested from us, came out of this proposal. And so we're going to continue to see the payoffs of having spent all the time and energy on this, whether or not we get that 160 million in. I'm going to predict that a couple of years from now, we're going to be seeing huge payoff for having invested in that effort now. So with that, I'm so excited about this, and I care if we get it. I'm scared that we're gonna get it. I'm scared that we're not gonna get it. It's kind of this amazing thing, so I don't really want to know until we actually know. But it was really a huge thing. And the other reason I have to thank Provost Holloway and President Stokes is that when we were all getting together trying to decide who was actually going to lead this, they really championed that UNM should be the lead. We are the largest institution in the state of New Mexico. We're at the heart of this region, and we're an R1 institution, and we should be stepping up to lead these kinds of efforts. So really, congratulations to everybody who contributed to that. I won't tell you about how Dave wanted to quit partway through and I had to talk him off of it. Just kidding. And then the second thing I wanted to point out in terms of partnerships, technology enhancement fund, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but the state has the technology enhancement fund is something that was established by the state of New Mexico many years ago, but they never put any money into the pot. They recently, last year, put some money into that pot and said, yep, let's go ahead and pay for some of this and support research in our state. And so just within the past few weeks, we've gotten together and we've started to think about how we're divvying up the funds that are available. Right now, it looks like maybe about $6.5 million is going to come to UNM to support matching for grants that require matching funds, which is going to really help us because it then might free up additional funds for us to do other things with that. And then we're hoping that this process is going to continue. We're kind of in a holding pattern because I don't know if you guys have noticed, but up in Santa Fe, you never really know what's going to happen. So the legislature's done, but then we have to wait for the governor to sign off. And so we're kind of in a holding pattern. Hopefully, we're going to have more money to be able to really think about how we can leverage that to go after more of these bigger and leveled up types of proposals. I just want to say one thing about a couple things about Sandia National Lab, another one of our big partners in the area. We over the past year, the provost office really did a great job at formally establishing the faculty sharing program. We currently have 11 joint appointments that have been submitted. So we're working on continuing to build out our relationship through that program. And then the other thing we did in order to continue to enhance those relationships was we had a call for proposals late last year, where we asked people to say, hey, you want to start a new partnership with somebody at Sandia, we'll give you $25,000 in seed funding. We had some great proposals that were submitted to that. We funded 6 of them. And I'll again point out that one of the people that was awarded one of these seed fundings was a researcher from the health sciences campus. So we're continuing to try to build collaborations with health sciences through these kinds of efforts. Research measures of excellence. I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time on this. I always feel the need to show the numbers. What are the metrics that we're measured by? This particular grant is our graph is about the awards received. You're looking at the last 5 years up through 2022. Last year, you can see we had a pretty big jump in the number of proposals that are, number of awards that were received. Went up to 1625. So we're back to sort of where we were pre-pandemic, which is nice to see. The awards in dollars amounted to almost $400 million in awards. So that's a really good number. I also like to see the positive trend over the last 3 years. Hopefully that's going to continue in 2023. And then the last one here is our research expenditures. And again, really nice to see that we reached 355 million in research expenditures last year. And again, we think we're on track to see that continue to go up in 2023. Okay. I'm going to spend about 3 to 5 minutes on the last bit here. I want to just point out we've got new level leadership. We're really looking to partner with the new deans. And I also want to just point out that the health sciences campus, we have interim VPR Hangame Racy. I've been working with her really closely over the past 2 or 3 months, and it's been awesome. So I'm really hopeful that we're going to continue to have more and more partnerships and collaborations coming out of that. I also want to note that the provost has made it his #1 priority that faculty compensation is really important. And so he's been working on that. And along with that, I said, we need, in addition to having comparable or competitive faculty compensation, we also need to have competitive startup packages. So we collaborated on a way to start a central startup pool for those resources. We are currently accepting requests for those only through dean's offices. So I'm not accepting requests from individual faculty or individual department chairs, but work through your dean. And we are working on ways of supporting startup funds for strategic hires. I also want to point out, going back to that great graphic, that we are also in the process of thinking about how we can increase support for researchers. These are all new positions that we've either hired or are looking to hire over in the next 6 to 9 months. And they're all very focused on how we help researchers do their job better, and how we lift the burden and the hurdles that they have to overcome to get there. I also want to say we're looking at bringing on board 2 new Category 3 centers. The first one here is ARID, which stands for Accelerating Resilience Innovations for Drylands. And this is what I mentioned earlier with the grand challenges, leveling up. This is really coming out of the water grand challenge. They're looking to build a Category 3 center, and we're in the process of doing that. And then we also have the QNMI, which is also coming out of our efforts with and partnership with Sandia National Labs. So look for those to be launched formally in the fall of 2023. We've been working on research infrastructure in a variety of different ways. We're even now partnering with facilities management, which is awesome. And I also want to say our research council, we've developed two action groups under the research council. One of them is specifically focused on research facilities, and that includes core facilities, space, and other kinds of things like that. And then the second one is on research strategy, which is going to help us to make sure we're following our strategic plan and meeting our metrics and those kinds of things. And then the last thing, I think this is close to the last thing, I just want to point out that with this change in leadership in ORIC, we have created a task force to take a look at just finding out, we want to get some feedback. What have we been doing well? What have we not been doing well? Evaluation of our strengths and potential growth areas. And we're going to be doing that over the next couple of months. So look for some more information on, or more announcements about that and opportunities to provide us with feedback. Grand challenges, we're leveling up to level 2, and that RFP has been out on the street for a couple of months. Proposals are due on Monday, May 1st. And I will also just note here that you don't have to be a level 1 team to apply for this. We're going to fund 3 to 5 teams out of that. And initial seed funding is $200,000 for each team. And that'll be a 2-year program. And then an event that not very many people know about, the Lightning Lounge is going national. We have along with the Alumni Association, there's going to be an alumni reception in Washington, D.C. All of our congressional delegation has been invited. We are taking, I think it's 4 faculty members, 1 from health sciences, 3 from Central Campus to go out and give lightning talks to the alumni and the congressional delegation on April 18th. We're really looking forward to that event. So with that, this is my signal to say, wrap it up, Ellen, which I should have done about 5 minutes ago. But with that, I will just say we're open for Q&A, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, BPR Fisher. So yes, we'd love to have a Q&A taking questions from the audience. For those online, please also know that you can submit your questions via Zoom, via the Q&A function, and we will be monitoring that as well.
Oh, come on. There's not a single question in this group?
People are still typing online, I think. But
Oh, okay.
Only one,
Okay,
but most excites you about the next 5 years.
the next 5 years? Oh. What I really like about UNM is that we do a lot of different things, and that's very non-specific, but we're kind of a hidden gem. And what I really think is that what I predict is that if we continue to try to accelerate and advance and elevate the work that we're doing here and raise the visibility of both individual researchers as well as the programs that we have, that we will become a national name, that we will be known for the research that happens at UNM. And while I think that happens in smaller sectors, in general, I don't think that UNM is thought of as a research powerhouse, and it absolutely is, and it absolutely has the potential to be even more than it is right now. So I really look forward to saying, what are we doing now, and how can we take that and move it to, that's why I keep saying we're going to level up. We're going to level it up, okay? But I really think part of that has to do with getting national and international recognition more at the forefront of what we're doing. So, yes, Ivan.
I'm curious more about, NSF's F-score mandate. I mean, there's different ways that NSF funds, or some are sort of specifically an F-score program. Is it more, but is it broader than that? Is it that, if you happen to, you're in a general program, but you happen to be a researcher from an F-score state, then they say, hey, you can fund something at UNM.
Yeah, so that's a really good question. What NSF is trying to do is to feed more money into F-score states. Obviously, the number one way that they do that is through the F-score program. They have track 1, track 2, track 4, whatever. We actually have been successful in getting some of those besides the track 1 here through the F-score office. But in addition to that, they're saying there's extra money that's available to go into individual programs if it's going to go to support researchers in EPSCoR states. So it's a combination of those things. There's more money that's been put directly into the EPSCoR program. And then there's additional funds that have also been set aside to fund proposals in individual programs. Do we have an online
We
question?
do have an online question.
Okay.
You've brought up a lot of really new initiatives and are supporting a lot of new areas at UNM. How is OVPR going about resourcing these new initiatives?
Well, we built a counterfeit machine when I got here, and we've just been cranking out the dollars. Now, we have a lot of different ways. I'm a big believer in understanding how money flows and understanding there are lots of different sources and taking advantage of all of those. And so in terms of depending on what programs we're talking about, we've really utilized all of those things, and we're continuing to seek additional funds through other means as well. So as some examples of that, we have helped people to get RPSP funds out of the state, so that we have state funding that's separate from the regular budget. So we've done that. We've been working with the foundation to get some philanthropic funding in, and also to target some specific research foundations so that our researchers are going after some of those funds that they used to not go after. We've also worked with the provost to think about how we could potentially get some ING funds to support some of the activities that we do, like some of the centers and things like that. We've also utilized, we have some revenue that comes in from patent litigation and from licensing technologies. And we've been using those for some of the new programs and things like that we've done. And also, I think that rethinking our budget and how we support things. And one of the things that we've done is sort of rearrange some of the funding that we had in our budget to allow us to do some of that. So we basically try to utilize all the arrows in our quiver to be able to think about what's going to make the most impact for the research community.
Ready for another one?
Sure, unless somebody else, I'm looking for hands, I don't see any hands, so.
You have one.
Oh, there we go. Yes.
I don't have a question, but just a comment. Thank you guys for the central starter pool. This is on my mind, I just hit send on faculty hiring letter. I'm optimistic that we'll be able to get her in, and we're facing a arms race when we're competing with other institutions for faculty. And I really appreciate you guys putting thought into how we handle startup, because that's a big part of recruiting people here.
Yeah, and I don't want to speak for James, but I know for me, that's one of the big things I know is super important, and we're working on different ways to think about how we can sustainably continue to fund that. James, I know, is working on getting being able to use ING funds to continue to support that. And the other thing that I did not mention, I focused on startup when I talked about that, but the other thing that we're really, really interested in doing is being much more proactive and preemptive in retention, and making sure that we can really retain our great faculty. And to do that, again, I know that the provost has set aside recurring funds to help out with maybe salary bumps for people that may be at flight risk. And we've been working with it on a case-by-case basis. And I know that at least within arts and sciences, I think last count, we have OVPR has participated in 5 or 6 retention offers, and we've been successful with the vast majority of those, 80 to 90%. If we give a retention offer. So we're all happy that we've been doing that. We've missed some and we've lost some faculty, I know. And you're not going to win them all, but I think if we try to be more intentional and proactive about doing this, we'll have a better chance of retaining faculty. So, one more. Okay.
How do you see the role of the branches in collaborative research projects, especially opportunities related to economic development and workforce preparation from the branch campus?
Oh, I love it. I love that the branch campuses are involved. A couple different things I want to say on one of the last slides there that I kind of went through quickly. One of the things that we're talking about doing is hiring a new faculty research support officer in our FRDO, whose job, at least some large portion of their FTE would be dedicated to the branch campuses. And part of that is because I've seen a real interest from the branch chancellors. The new branch chancellors all have said, we need more support for research administration. What can we do? So we're going to work on partnering with them to be able to provide essentially a point of contact so that they have somebody who can serve as a liaison or a concierge to be able to do that. And so that doesn't really answer the question that was asked, but I want to point out, we've been thinking about them. We've been talking to the chancellors. I think there's a real opportunity with a lot of emphasis and effort at the federal level and also at the state level at thinking about workforce development, being creative and innovative in how we go about that workforce development. And I think that part of that is going to, for UNM, feed in through our branch campuses. And so one way is, and again, research is education. And I believe that if you can get people doing their discipline, you get them excited and interested in actually doing that, and you get that early on, you're going to keep them for longer. So I think it's research is a mechanism for getting us into that. So I think there are a lot of different ways we can do it. Economic development, I think, is going to come through workforce development types of things. I will say that one of the proposals that we put forward for support through the Technology Enhancement Fund this year was an economic development proposal that came out of UNM Taos. And so I'm super excited that we may be getting some matching funds from the state to support that effort. I also feel like there's a real opportunity for the branch campuses faculty to get engaged in research themselves. And while they may not have the resources or the infrastructure at the branch campuses, I think there are ways that we can pull them into stuff that's happening here. And also in things like where we have field researchers out doing things and they need more people out, I don't know, counting birds and things like that. Where's Chris Lippett? Do we count birds or whatever? I don't mean to make fun. Tom's here, the fishes. So we have fish and birds. And so anyway, doing those kinds of things is another way to get students and faculty engaged in really meaningful and impactful research projects, and having them in some of these areas that we are not is really good. Taos and Valencia, Gallup, et cetera. So Los Alamos, if you want to miss one of them. That's all 4 of them. Okay.
Well, thank you. DPR Fisher, thank you, everybody. As advertised, we are having a reception afterwards with food and refreshments. And for those online, we did not get to all of the Q&A, but we have recorded them, and we will be typing up a special communication from the desk of the VPR answering all questions that were submitted as part of the pre-submission as well as part of the Q&A. So thank you again to all.